Good morning. I can tell as I look around from my RSVP list, we've got a few people that are probably still on their way, but we're going to go ahead and get started. It is about 10 o'clock, and we do have live stream viewers who are going to be joining us today. Just a couple of housekeeping rules as we get started. If you brought your cell phone and you want to use it, please at least just put it on silent so that we're not distracting one another while we're here today. If you haven't already found them, our restrooms are back here in the backhand side in the kitchen area of this room. And because we do have live stream viewers today, when we have time for whole group conversation and you're going to be speaking, we're going to be bringing a microphone to you so that those who are listening remotely can hear us, as well as sometimes the acoustics in this room are a little bit challenging. So we'll encourage you to make sure you're using a microphone when you participate in conversation. Want to certainly welcome those who are live stream viewers as they join us today, and you should have a dialogue box on your computer screen where you can forward questions to us if you would like to participate in the conversation later on. Hopefully for those of you who are here on site, you noticed that construction has begun on our new office building and education training center. I want to tell you that my personal experience was I picked our guest speaker Bill up last evening at the airport, and we came up here and it was about 10:30 when we got on site. So I said, oh look, there's all the construction, isn't that amazing? And before I knew it, I realized that the sign and the road were over there, and we were probably in the middle of the offices. So I've already taken a run through the offices. Just want you to know. So if you haven't taken a run through, I encourage you to do that at some point. Anyhow, I am delighted to welcome this morning Dr. Bill Withers. If you have Googled him, you may wonder if he is the singer-songwriter who is known for Lean on Me and Ain't No Sunshine. And having spent a little time talking with Bill, I'm willing to bet that he probably would sing those for us, but he is not originally known for those melodies. However, he does have a Bachelor of Arts degree in Communications from Winona State University, Master's in Journalism and Mass Communication from Iowa State, and a doctorate from Drake University. He does research in public relations, quality customer service, organizational change, and leadership. And as he was sharing with me last night, he's been quite involved in his congregation as they've moved through a time of transition, and he's going to be reflecting some of that learning in their process as a part of our conversation today. He, with his leadership and management experience, presents both to church groups like ours and also to corporations. And so he has worked with Proctor Gamble, the Ritz Carlton, Disney, and my personal favorite, Starbucks. He is the recipient of the Schellvold Award for Teaching Excellence and Advisor of the Year Award. And so he lives and works at Wartburg College with his wife Linda, and they have 2 children living in Waverly, Iowa. So welcome, Bill. It's a delight to have you here this morning.
Thank you.
I'm going to open with just a word of prayer, please. The Lord be with you. Gracious God, it is indeed a glorious day. The breeze is blowing, the sun is shining, and we are gathered as your community this morning, ready to have your Spirit stir into our midst and to have us be challenged and to think about how we can be church in new ways, particularly as we reflect upon the ways in which we can welcome those who are new to our midst or to those we have known for some time. So help us open our hearts and our minds as we hear what Bill has to share with us. I pray that you will bless his presentation and his time with us. May we together more fully live into being the people of God that you hope for each of us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jane. Everybody hear me okay with the lav mic on? Very good. Good morning. Now, by the way, Jane did not explain that as we were hitting the construction site last night at about 10:30, I think Jane's experience was that she felt her car sinking because she drove right into the construction site. She goes, "This doesn't feel right." And I said, "No." So we backed out, got around, and got to where we were supposed to be. We found the cottage just fine. So it was dark, yes. In her defense, it was dark. It is such a privilege and an honor for me to be here with you this morning. And I bring actually greetings from my home church, which is Nazareth Evangelical Lutheran Church in Cedar Falls and Waterloo. That's in the northeast corner. The Northeast Iowa Synod, where Bishop Steve Ulested presides, and then my own ELCA employer, my day job, Wartburg College, which is a sister-like institution to Wartburg Seminary, which is in Dubuque. We're in Waverly, Iowa. So anyway, good morning, and thank you all for having me. I actually love this model of a table talk. And if you're all right with it, what I would like to do is mix it up a little bit, and we'll do table talk a couple of times during the morning, and then a little more extended in the afternoon after we have a lunch together. Does that sound all right? Then okay, I've seen some heads nod. I'm going to ask you to trust me then. And some of you have come with a spouse. Some of you have come with lay leaders or council members or a pastor from your church. And what I would like you to do for me this morning, if you're willing to do that, is I would like to mix the room up a little bit and make sure you're at a full table for a good table talk. And if you're okay with that, to sit outside your comfort zone a little bit. Can we break up some of the parishes and we'll even break up the marriages if we have to today. Can you do that for me? Would you make sure that you're at a very full table? Do that now. Can we do that? Let's plug in where you can. Good. Mix it up, mix it up. And when you get in that spot, introduce yourself. Make sure you introduce yourself. Good. Are we all right? All right. Thank you very much for doing that for me. There is a method to my madness. There is a method to my madness, and I'll explain it as I go. Okay, a couple of things this morning as we convene. My background, I'm going to get up here and switch that. My background is around these six organizations, I should say. I was in business long before I came into the academy. So as I was in and by the way, today is really going to be a mix of secular versus non-secular. And as much as I asked you to trust me in mixing things up at the table, I'm going to ask you to meet me in the middle there. When I was in business, I ran a small media company in Minnesota for a number of years at various levels of management and leadership. And then I decided to be, in my second career, go into the academy and teach and bring some of those experiences to my students and other organizations, including the church. And so I've had a real interesting background, and I've been blessed, not in a prideful way, just I've been blessed to be able to have access to some of what I refer to as 4-star or 5-star service providers. Because I wasn't writing an expose, I wasn't doing anything that was going to harm them, most all of the organizations you see on the screen gave me complete access. They let me come in as a researcher and kind of turn over all the leaves and roll over all the stones and say, well, tell me a little bit more about how you do things. So that's been my background. It's been a blessing. The other thing that really influenced me, and by the way, at the end of our time today, I'm going to recommend some things to you that you might want to read this summer. This is one that I really, really liked, and it was kind of the genesis of my thinking and then rethinking, what can the church learn from some of these 4-star, 5-star service providers? Because obviously, newsflash, things are not always trending in a positive way for what I would consider our mainstream churches. And there's a number of indicators that I'll share with you, and you're going to talk about them too at your tables, about what is driving this change. What is driving some of these trends, and is there anything that we can possibly do in our parishes, in our churches, to make people feel more welcome and more like they're a part of things? You know, my theory on that is this, and it doesn't matter to me if you're on Facebook, and we're streaming on the web right now. By the way, I want to welcome all of our viewers online this morning. People still want to belong. People still want and need to belong. And one of the great lessons I'll share with you this morning, this afternoon, is my understanding after spending a day with Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks. Jane will love the story. Where he invented something in creating his chain of coffee shops called the third place. I sat in his office and I said, Howard, Mr. Schultz, can you tell me what the secret is? Because, and I didn't want to offend him, but it's certainly not the coffee. The coffee's great. But I mean, $3 to $4 for a cup of coffee. I mean, I'm having a wonderful cup of coffee here this morning with all of you. And he said, Bill, it's not the coffee. I've invented and created something I refer to as the third place. You see, people that patronize my stores have a home and they have work. But in my experience with them, I've created the third place. And what it did, after all this research and all this time and all these experiences that I'm blessed to share with you today, it got me to thinking, why isn't our church the third place anymore? What happened? There was a day when it was the center of the community. We used to have some of our town meetings there. We had our celebrations there. We gathered there. But now it's places like a Starbucks who are, in Howard Schultz's words, the third place. So in reading Ms. Baz's book and having some of the experiences that I've been blessed to have, I am very excited to bring to you today what I've learned, but I'm going to ask you again, please, especially the church leaders in the room, meet me halfway on the secular versus non-secular. It's really easy for us to say, well, Bill, in case you didn't notice, we're not a coffee shop. We have a coffee hour, but we're not a coffee shop. And in case you didn't notice, we're not a fast food chain, and we're not a hotel, and we're not some of these other things that you keep throwing at us. And I want you to understand right up front, I totally get that. But I need you to meet somewhere in the middle of secular and non-secular and see what we can pick up from the places, those third places that do what I refer to as 4-star, 5-star experiences. I'll define the terms for you this morning. I'll lay it all out for you. And what I'm going to challenge you to do is figure out what to take back to your church and make work. In fact, I'll actually get us into some discussions today where you'll have to kind of come up with some of those ideas yourself. Here's our agenda for the day. By the way, I do encourage you to take notes if you like to do that sort of thing. If you don't want to take notes, what I'm going to do at the end of our time today is I'm going to give you my card and my contact information for those of you watching online. I'll make sure that Jane has that. Anybody that wants some of the data points from my work today, I have a color PDF that I will email you. Okay? We'll just make sure you get it. But in the meantime, because it's table talk, how can we talk and remember some of the things Bill wants to get us through? So, here's the agenda for today. Why this particular topic? Well, I explained that in part, but the second piece of that is that the church, little c, church, is going through dramatic change. I think change is what is driving a lot of what we should be talking about anyway, and it's not a new topic, certainly. Especially, I mean, we really should be all about Reformation-like change, and it probably starts, to me, at the grassroots level in our church. I'm going to help you unpack what customer service is and what I have coined with another researcher and colleague as what I call QCS. So in your notes, if you want to write the acronym QCS, it stands for Quality Customer Service. I'm going to mess around with that acronym here in a couple of minutes, and I promise you I'll define it and give it a working definition that you can use in your church. We'll take a look at what the 4-star, 5-star service providers are doing, and we'll also explore probably more so this afternoon what it is you can be doing at your church that might work. And it has to be a little bit beyond coffee hour. So that's what we'll get at today. Now, everybody's kind of at a new table. I broke up some marriages this morning. That's like, no, this was an amazing table talk because I couldn't sit with my spouse or I couldn't sit with my church, and I'm really okay with that. I want you to trust me one more time. One of the things I want to say is I will never embarrass you, and I'm not going to have Jane or the bishop do a trust fall or anything today, even though we're at the retreat center. We won't do that. And as much as some of you enjoy it, we won't be singing Kumbaya. However, I am going to ask you at times today to just trust me in an exercise or trust me around discussion points because I really do have a purpose in having you process it. So, this first exercise requires that you stand up if you are able, where you are seated. Very good. Now, I will explain everything we talk about, everything we do has got a teachable moment assigned to it. So, here's what we're going to do. I want you to choose someone at your table to greet this morning. Oh, see, some of you the wheels are already turning. I can hear them squeak. I want you to greet those people at your table as if they were unimportant. Now, let me explain it. You are greeting someone. You're going to have an affect now where they are not that important to you. So I want you to affect what that would feel like. Greet those people at your table as if they are unimportant to you now. And for those of you at home, if you want to try this, go for it. Just go out and might want to explain what you're doing. Unimportant. Okay. Next activity. Stay where you're at. Everybody feel that? So that I just greeted somebody that I might know or might not know, but I did so as if they were unimportant. I think you know what the next part of this is. I want you to greet them now. And by the way, safe boundaries. Christians, safe boundaries. Don't do anything inappropriate. I want you to greet those same people as if they're long-lost friends. Would you do that for me now, please? Okay. Thank you. All right, return to your seats. That's the extent of, by the way, that you just participated in our health and wellness program, so thank you for that. That was our Briarwood Health and Wellness program, all part of Obamacare. I can't imagine that you did not feel the difference in the room. I mean, it's palpable change. Now, in defense of that exercise, the one thing I tell people is the one thing people want from other people. I'll talk a little bit later about the power of hello and goodbye. In the human condition, in the human experience, there really is nothing more powerful than hello and goodbye. I just got an email this morning from, I'm doing a leadership development program for a company, and I have a cohort of emerging leaders, and I just got an email this morning that one of these young executives lost a child at birth today. And I just can't imagine anything more painful. And it's hard to even be empathetic and understand it unless you've experienced it. But there is nothing more powerful than hellos and goodbyes. And the same applies at our churches, folks. In fact, I can easily explain why I might be brought to tears at a baptism, at a funeral, at a wedding. I might just be tears of joy at those experiences, because psychologically, cognitively, emotionally, there is nothing more powerful in the human condition than hellos and goodbyes. Now, one of the things we also wish for and long for is that interaction be authentic. For example, if I was to greet Wayne, I think Wayne would feel best if he knew I genuinely felt that inside, right? Right? I don't want to have so much affect that we kind of creep people out. But there's no question, if I asked you to raise your hand, I said, how many believe they could get up in the morning and impact or affect their own attitude? Do you feel like you could choose how you're going to attack the day? You just did it for me. Every single one of you was able to put a smile on your face and greet one another in this room. Many of you that you didn't even know, across this mission, this synod, and made people feel warm and welcome. So here's what I'm going to say a little sternly. Don't ever tell me that this today, what we're going to talk about, is not possible. Because it is possible for you to choose to do this right. It is possible to train others to do it right. And we demonstrated that in just the last couple minutes. Again, we would like that to be natural, authentic, and what I would tell you is in your third place, you want to make sure you have people with high EQ. We'll talk about that today. That's not a typo. EQ is emotional intelligence. It's great to have people with high IQ, but sometimes they're not as empathetic. They don't emote well. They don't interact well. So looking for people with high EQ is so important, especially if you're going to have them, as we say in the hotel hospitality business, at the front of the house. Or as I would tell you today, at the front of his house. High EQ. But you did it. You did great. And could you feel the energy? Could you hear it? Just the volume of what it's like to be warm and welcomed and a part of something a little bit bigger than who we are in this room. So good work. Excellent. All right. What I want you to do first at your tables, and then, and actually, Jane, I may have you go around with a mic in just a second. Can you tell me what you believe to be some of the big change drivers across the church right now? Now, let me differentiate, folks. This first little mini table talk is this. What's driving change, capital C, across his church, capital C? I don't want you to share what's going on in your parish. I just want to say, as I think about my Christian life, as I think about the life of our church in this mission, here's what I think are some of the things that are driving change. Could you talk about that for 60 or 90 seconds? And then when your table thinks they have what I would consider a pretty significant change driver, would you raise your hand, and then I'm going to have Jane put you on mic for the rest of us. Would you do that for me now? What is the big C change driver across the big C church as I think about the church today? Give me 90 seconds at your table. Talk amongst yourselves. $60 more seconds, 1 more minute. Encourage our folks at home or in their office to be doing this as well. What is driving change? 30 seconds. Okay, let's bring it back together. Thank you, everybody. Who would have what I would consider to be a pretty significant change driver? In other words, Bill, one of the things our table landed on right away, in fact, a couple of us mentioned it, was blank. Give me a table that has one or two of those, and then I'll have Jane come with the microphone so we can share it with the folks at their home and office. Go ahead. Tell us who you are, too, by the way, and where you're from.
I'm Deborah Leone. I'm from Greenville, Texas, the pastor at Redeemer.
Welcome.
Thank you, and welcome to you. I've seen a change that the church is now a menu item, and we fall way short on the priority list. We're not the special of the day.
Okay, can you tell me, I'm going to draw a little bit more from you on that. There's too many things going on. Just tell me a little bit more about what you're thinking.
Well, sports usually wins out,
okay,
first of all. So, and when you challenge people, they don't like it. That they say, when I've challenged them and said, okay, who are you answering to, the coach or to God? Well, they'd rather answer to the coach.
Okay, good. Thank you. Let's go. A couple more tables, please. By the way, folks, the theme is table talk, right?
Neil White from Rejoice in Frisco. One of the other things is the attitude over the last 20 and 40 years towards church has changed to where its place in society has changed. So, like the discussion you had just a second ago with people being okay with saying, well, this position in sports is more important. 40 years ago, that probably wouldn't have been for many people even an option. And the other reality is that it is not the same level of expectation that people had 20 or 40 years ago of being in church. The people who are in church now are making a choice to be in church.
Good. Excellent. I want one more. This side of the room is awful quiet. By the way, when we do the lunch line, this room, unless they start acting up a little bit, may be eating last.
I'm Wayne Mashua from Resurrection Church in Haslett, and the first one we came up with was the prevalence of social media today and the electronic world that we live in, especially with the youngsters, where they're used to getting all of their information almost instantaneously through the social media, and not only that, they want their news, they want to know what their friends are doing, they want to know it now. They don't want to wait. They got to have it now.
Good. Thank you, Wayne. Good. Excellent. Very, very good. Anybody else with something pressing? Go for it. Tell us who you are and where you're from.
My name is Lucas Rushley from King of Glory in Dallas.
Does anybody else love his voice as much as I do? Were you ever in broadcasting?
No, I was an actor, so yeah.
Awesome.
There you go.
I love it. And scene.
End scene. We're done. The end. Thanks all.
Yeah.
No, we're talking about how people in our changing social culture, people don't know how to fit into the church. They feel like maybe, we specifically talked about couples that live together but maybe aren't married, and how that's becoming a norm. And coming to church sometimes, it's uncomfortable because you feel like you're going to be judged, or you don't know that you're welcome there, or maybe you're not welcome there. So not knowing how to fit in.
Awesome. Perfect. Anecdotal story. I was in we have I would say by Iowa standards, probably one of the larger ELCA churches in the state of Iowa. There's Hope Lutheran in Des Moines, and West Des Moines is one of the country's largest. And I know Pastor Mike and his team and their family well. In Cedar Falls, we have a nice-sized church. I'll actually show a little bit of that here in a second. But to that point, I had a family that I had invited, and I actually found myself doing this. If you're not comfortable, you come in through the side door, and we have balcony seating. So you can actually kind of sneak in and sneak out and find your comfort level, and then when you come back that next Sunday, then you can come down to the main floor and be with all of us. And just because there's so many it's a large church, and it was a situation where they just didn't know how to fit in and where to sit and how to make that work. Very good work. All right. I want to talk about 4 of the more prevalent change, capital C, things happening across our church. They're not in a rank order, but you actually touched on them a little bit. By the way, Wayne's comment about social media and my earlier comment about belonging and the human condition of hello and goodbye. I want to connect the dots on that for you. Wayne is correct. There's a whole movement, but if I wasn't accurate in my saying people want to belong to something, can you tell me why they're so fixated on having Facebook friends? Why they would have Twitter followers? Why it is so mission critical that something they post be liked? The power of the hello and goodbye in the human condition, even as it cuts across social media. What Wayne is saying is that hello and goodbye and that like and dislike and accept and is instantaneous. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Okay, 4 things that I think really are driving change right now. Some of it is generational. We have just a fraction of Gen Y millennials now that claim Christianity. I'll actually show you a billboard from Wisconsin about the antithesis of the Christian movement. But I think the other thing too is, and especially as we came out of that whole sexuality study across the ELCA, which was polarizing and dividing, and we got caught up in what I refer to, and what actually theologians and scholars both refer to as religiosity. And it's an inward focus rather than a beyond our walls type of focus, and I'll talk about beyond our walls in a second too. We're stuck. Churches, generally speaking, capital C, around the capital C change, have a really tough time changing and then adapting to things. And part of that is because we are, look at number 1 and 3. So we have an inability to adapt, and I know in our churches we have at least 4 generations of members, those that are still attending. 4 different generations, all desiring a different communication, Wayne, all desiring a little something different. We have 3 different worship services every Sunday morning. A highly liturgical traditional worship at that time of the day when our more senior members are up, right? Very early in the morning. And then we have a middle service, which is, remember the language we use in the church. It's blended. It's blended. I'm like, what does that mean? Well, there might be a guitar. So it's blended. And then our third service, which, get this, in a college and university community, starts at 10 after 11. My folks are already into their first nap of the day at 10 after 11. And that is all contemporary. But we have a lot of generations at our church. And we have found a way to adapt. The other thing is, I'm not sure that we understand what being the third place would be. I'll explain some of the history of that. But part of this is reinventing and adapting to change. Here's the billboard I mentioned. If you cannot see it, I'll read it to you. This is from the Center for Inquiry. It reads, and that's in Wisconsin, standing today, by the way. You do not need God to hope, to care, to love, to live. Livingwithout.religion.org. There's a whole movement. Actually, it is a church movement, little c, for those that are atheist and agnostic. It's a fast-growing movement in Europe and also now in the United States. Now, rather than sit in judgment of that, can you listen to me very carefully? They're appealing to people who want to belong in bricks and mortar facilities and online. They may not believe, they may not know in what or to whom to believe, but they do want to belong. A little history on our church. And Christopher, if you're okay, am I okay moving to the other side here? I don't want to mess up our folks at home or in their office. I don't want to spend too much time talking about Nazareth, and my senior pastor, Pastor Brian King, is keenly aware that I'm visiting with you today, as is our bishop and my college. To be really blunt with you, and Jane and I had a wonderful car ride from the airport last night, and I explained a little bit of our church, and we can do that over lunch. I'd be happy to talk to you. But we went through some dramatic change and a significant drop in numbers. I mean, I'm talking drop in numbers, drop in resources, drop in everything. We at one point in our church, we had to have what is referred to as a metanoia process. The metanoia folks came in from the East Coast and spent time in residence in our church for months and months and months just to get us to a point of better understanding what was happening. And it was a little bit around the time of the sexuality study, but I don't really truly believe that was it. It was just one of the indicators. We had some leadership issues. We were dealing with all four of those different areas around change. Yes, ma'am. The metanoia process is it's an outside, non-denominational group of Christian group that comes in and helps a broken church go through some healing process. Yeah. In fact, if I can email you that too if you want to a little bit later. Bottom line on this is this: it was time at Nazareth to re-examine our core values. So, organizationally, for all of you, mission, vision, values. Who are we? What is it we wish to be? And we had to get, after that metanoia, we had to get to a place where we really examined that. And we came up with our strategic planning team, which I was on. We understood that we were going to be living together in God's amazing grace, inviting all people to know Christ, grow in Christ, and make Christ known. We decided that these were going to be our values. We were going to live in holy discontent. That's for those of you that follow Willow Creek in Chicago, that is a Bill Hybels concept. Holy discontent is that thing that you realize is happening, that you just know that wrong is wrong, and so that your church is going to be involved in that. We were a church that had bylaws and governance structures and committees, so that by the time you voted and got something through to act and do something, you know what? The thing was over. It was already done. So we had to really examine who we were and how we were going to be a church. Trust me on this, it's all leading up to this notion around QCS, at least a significant part of it. So we decided we were going to live in holy discontent. We had to be more nimble in how we responded. We were going to be responsive. When we saw a need in our community or next door or across the world, we were going to respond to that. Here it is for you folks. Watch carefully. We decided that one of our core values was to be more relational, to do better at our hellos and goodbyes, not just inside our walls, but beyond our walls. In fact, that was one of our key tenets as well. We were going to be a church that was, yes, about Sunday and Wednesday night and about youth and about families, but in the end it was going to be about leading beyond our walls. How are we going to engage? Now I'm going to show you some of the data. So, these are the things we unpacked. We started to examine our strategic initiatives and all the folks. We rolled up our sleeves. We were going to look at all of our programs. We were going to examine staffing. By the way, as you look at this, folks, what I want you to see is no sacred cows. We decided there would be no sacred cows. Nothing, no stone unturned. We were going to look at our facilities. We were going to look at our finances. And last week, we changed our bylaws to a fraction of the pages and rules and regulations that they were. In a near unanimous vote of affirmation, to be more nimble, to be more relational, to live in holy discontent and lead beyond our walls. We'd rather ask for forgiveness later than permission that takes a year to get something done. Now, again, I don't present any of this in a prideful, boastful way. I'm just telling you, I come to you today from Northeast Iowa, where we've been through a significant time. And the bottom line was it was all Holy Spirit. Nothing to do with Pastor Brian or any of our team up there, although they are quite amazing and wonderful. What do those numbers look like when you do that? Here's what ours look like. So I'm tracking, and I just asked our business office to update these numbers through last week. We have average weekend attendance up about 12%. 475 new members over the last 2 years. about $130,000 ahead of receipts. We have the highest pledges now in church history. And we have, actually children are leading this Beyond the Walls thing. It's an amazing experience. The malaria project, the mosquito netting, our kids just said, Mom and Dad, get out of the way, we're going to do it. And they just let it. Once they understood it, they just let it. And then our Senate's done a really nice job with that. Now, I don't show those numbers, again, in a prideful way. I want you to understand how we got there. It was an understanding around our core values and our mission, and it was an understanding that we had to unpack everything, and it took time, actually coming out of crisis, to the point where, through the Holy Spirit, some really neat things are happening. You got to be sitting there wondering, too, did people leave? Bill, did people leave your church? And the answer is yes. Sure. Are people coming back to your church? Some of them are sitting in the balcony. They're just like, and then they want to sit in, and they want to get back at it. We want to make them feel welcome. And all of a sudden, many new people are coming around the power of the hello and goodbye, and out of a sense of wanting to belong to something bigger than themselves that was not going to be about religiosity. But we've not compromised our core. We've not compromised who we are. We're quite proud to be in the ELCA, but you've got to get out there and get after it. Now, this is a real interesting bell curve around understanding change that will help you a little bit. This actually comes out of Iowa State University. It's an adoption and diffusion of innovation model. I don't want you to get into all that gobbledygook. These labels are not mine, by the way. They're not my labels. This really has to do with how people look at change, and I would say both in the secular, and remember what I said at the beginning, I want you to work with me on secular and non-secular. So across any system or organization, at that time, Everett Rogers did some research, and he said, well, how is it that people adapt to change? How do they get after a change? The very changes that you all process at your tables. And this was the bell-shaped distribution of what Rogers said would be very common. So here's what I'm asking you to do today as you look at this across your church, whether you're worshiping 10, 100, or 1,000 people. It does not matter to me. Size does not matter. You just work the percentage. Work the percentage. And Rogers' thing around change in our church, if we could apply this, would be this. There's probably about 15 to 20% of your congregations that are going to, as Rogers refers to them, are laggards. They're probably not going to be the people that want to move very far around a change initiative. But the exciting news, and what I want to make sure that we get as church leaders, is this. There's probably 15% up here in what he refers to as innovators or early adopters. Now remember, I don't care if it's 10, 100, 1,000 at your church. Just do the raw numbers, do the percentages. What we do in the church, and what our experience was a little bit at Nazareth, was this. These folks, and I'm on the strategic planning committee, so I'm up here with these folks. I love it. Let's try something. Let's suspend somebody to play, not just do the drums in that second worship. Let's suspend somebody from the ceiling to play the drums and really get after it. Can you just imagine someone floating from air playing the drums? Wouldn't that be cool? I'm that type of person. And by the way, Jane, I did play in a band for 30 years, and I can sing the Bill Withers songs, but we're not going to do that now. Yeah, see? But here's what we do in our churches, folks. Look at the middle. Look at the middle. We spend, and I can tell you at our annual meetings, we do it at the Synod Assembly. We do it at the Synod Assembly. We spend most of our time dealing with what Rogers referred to as the laggards. And can I ask the question? Here it is. Where do these folks belong? To what do the 68% of any system or organization, to what do they belong? And the answer is leadership spending so much time on people that probably aren't going to change because of their upbringing, their family of origin, their church of origin, their human DNA. We spend all of our time focusing on that, and we don't focus on the middle. And if you can move the middle, look at the numbers. If you can move the middle, you can move the church. If you can move the middle, you can move the church. I've actually been in these meetings. You know, we're up here, the innovators, early adopters, and I've actually been in church meetings where somebody will say, well, I don't know if we can have that committee meeting. Well, why can't we have that committee meeting? Well, Sarah has the flu today. And then privately, in our own little sinful way, we're all going like this. Yes, she's got the flu. Then let's do the meeting. Because we won't have some of the stuff. And that's just so wrong, you know. That's our human, that's just wrong. Here's what I'm telling you. Look at this. Every church needs balance. If we're all up here, I mean, I don't know what Briarwood would look like. If we, everybody's change. Can't have it. You need balance. A healthy church needs balance. Healthy school district needs balance. Healthy community, healthy neighborhood needs balance. But I'm telling you, on your energies, a little less worry about things that won't change, and a little more focus on the 68th percentile that would, if they knew which way the wind was blowing. And oftentimes, they simply do not. Okay, we're ready for a little history lesson? Are we okay? And by the way, I'm going to have a stretch break here in a little bit, and we'll get you up and using the bathrooms, and folks at home or in their office can use the bathroom whenever they like, or they're welcome to come out here to the retreat center and use ours if they'd like to. Here's the history behind what's been happening. I want to cover, this is real brief, this is the best visual way for me to explain change and how our churches need to be a little more adaptive. We're certainly not early adopters. The irony is, if you go back to the days of Luther, we were all about the Reformation and change. Whatever's happened, let me explain the last couple of centuries. Remember the third place in Starbucks. Remember the third place, Starbucks, the human condition, hellos, goodbyes, the third place. Here we go. At the turn of the last century, around 1900 to about 1960, and we have some children of the 60s in this room today, I won't ask you to speak to it, just know I know that you're here. I was born in 59. At the turn of that last century, the mentality would have been this, I would actually say for the church, build it and they will come. This is when the church probably was the center of the community. We were born and baptized there. We were confirmed there. We died there. We were celebrated in life there. Various civic organizations and groups would meet at the church. Simply build it and they would come. From 1960 to the last turn of the last century, something interesting. I call this, by the way, the product era. I'll take you on today if you want to talk about the product era. I would say the same for schools. Just build the school. Even a country school, wherever that country school is located, just build it. That farm family will get there. Shoe store, downtown Main Street. Build the shoe store, they'll come. That's a family-owned and operated business, so they will patronize that shoe store. Something happened in 1960 to about 2000, and all of a sudden, guess what? Just down the road, there's another church. Little different flavor of ice cream. And somehow, another shoe store or another store that sold shoes, and even an online shoe store has developed. And there's an open enrollment program around the school district. Kids and families can move around, at least they can in my state. Competition. I refer to it as the consumer era. So whereas once all I had to do was build it and they would come, starting in 1960. Again, I'm painting with some very broad brushstrokes today, gang. Just hang in there with me. Just go with me. I would say around 1960, we had to say who we were and what we stood for. You had to do a little marketing and public relations. You had to say, we're the church down here, and yep, we're ELCA. We're the Methodists. We're the Presbyterians. We're the good Catholics down here. All of that started to happen in the consumer era. Now, today, this is what I need church leaders to get their arms around today. We are in probably, and for those of you that really want to look at a strategic future for your church, I would say this is probably for the next 20 years. We are in a 2-decade cycle that I refer to, and others do as well, the relationship era. Not only will some of us build it, but some of us won't build it. Some of it will be online, Wayne. But we're also going to have to be really clear about who we are and what defines us. If you go back to the Nazareth stuff we worked on, what are your core mission, vision, values? What is it we're going to be? And by the way, in your notes, can't be everything to everybody, can we? Cannot be everything to everybody. So we've got to figure out who we are and what we stand for. And then the future is about this: sustainable relationships. Oh my gosh, it's the hellos and goodbyes. It's belonging. I actually have to go a little bit above and beyond now that between service coffee hour. It's actually genuinely having people with high EQs creating an environment where people want to come to places like this, Briarwood. Historically, that's what's happening. That's at the intersection of secular and non-secular. And it's the best 3-point stool to stand on when you want to understand some of what is happening to our churches, to our schools, to our communities around technology, and a little better understanding of what's going to sustain us over the next 20 years. So, in our world, a little bit of scripture which I'll share for those that can't read it at home. Hybels is the one who said one major facet of the beauty of the local church is its power to transform the human heart. In Matthew 22:37, Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself." All the law and the prophets saying in those 2 commandments. Take a look, please. I actually think the time is right for us to reinvent and reassess and figure out how we're going to be the church of the future in the relationship era. And it may not be what we fully understand it to be today, but that means also that we're going to have to go back and talk about change. And there will be some people that will not want to be a part of that. Okay, I want to change lanes a little bit and get you back in your tables. I want to start talking about QCS. I'm going to define terms for you. That's a little bit of the history of how we got to the place we are right now. So here's your assignment at your table. And I want this actually to be outside of the church, please. Can you tell the people at your table the last time that you had an experience as a consumer where you just went, wow. Wow. I was not expecting that. I was expecting X, but whoa. This is what I got in return. I'll give you an example to start. 2 weeks ago, I was visiting with an executive at a company who had just taken order on a new car. He had just purchased a new car. Now here's my thing. I could not afford the vehicle that he purchased because he made him a little, he wasn't being boastful. He just said, this was a $40,000 vehicle. And I'm like, oh, my car is like 10 years old. And he said, this is a major purchase. And I said, what happened? He goes, well, the dealership called. And they said, Mr. So-and-so, you may come and bring your family, and you can pick up your new car. So he went to the dealership, which was in eastern Iowa, and he went to the showroom floor, and the representative came out and said this to him. He goes, "I'm really sorry. Your car's not ready." Now, he goes, "Well, I mean, is this something I need to go home now and then come back, or how do you want us to do this?" He goes, "If you're okay just waiting in the showroom, we're almost there." And it was a detailing issue, taking the plastic off, making sure there's plenty of new car smell, all that stuff. Anyway, so he said, and there's not a lot to do in car dealership showrooms, are there? You can kick the tires and look under the hood, but there's just not a lot to do. And if you've got kids with you, those there's limited stuff. After a bit, they came out. "Your car is ready." And hands the guy the keys. And in the other hand, check this out, hands that man a crisp $100 bill. And he said, "I need to apologize, because I called your house and I said your car was ready, and it was not ready. That's my mistake, and that's on me. So would you do me a favor? Would you take your wife and kids out? And I'd like you to have lunch in your brand new car, but I'd like that lunch to be on me." He's been telling that story every chance he gets. He literally had this wow, human condition, hello, goodbye experience. And when he tells the story, he even tells the name of the dealer. Now, $40,000 vehicle. You think that $100 bill set anybody back too much? I would bet. I asked him. I said, "So you'll drive this car for a while? Will you go back to that?" He goes, "Are you kidding me? I'm going back to that dealer. Not for the $100 free lunch, just because I'm going back." I need a couple of those stories at your tables. Can you do that for me? The last time you had an amazing dinner out. The last time you purchased something in a store, you just were knocked out. Maybe you got service. There's some service situation that you were in. Everybody has a wow story. Sometimes they just don't think we think about it. Would you do that for me? I'm going to give you 3 or 4 minutes at your tables, the last wow experience you had, what you expected and what you got in return. Let's go. 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes on this question. 2 minutes. One more minute. 1 minute. Okay. Let's bring it back to the large group. I'm going to have Jane grab a microphone and go around. I'm sure we have at least one. By the way, let me clarify something. You'll have plenty of time to visit and wrap that story up at lunch. So people sometimes say to me, you know, that Dr. Withers was a little crabby, kind of pushy. He was real big on clapping, and it seemed like there was a 1 minute and then a 30 seconds, and I just got so nervous. What I don't always show this, but I actually am a little fussy. So, because bathrooms are important, lunch is important, stretching is important. So, like I said, trust me. Just trust me, and we'll have a good day. Okay, I need a wow story. And this is where you can point to someone at your table and throw them under the bus. It's like, oh, her story was just phenomenal. Okay, and remember, say who you are and what church you're from.
Virginia Worley Christ Lutheran. This is one I didn't share because I had just thought about it. But several months ago, I replaced 4 automobile tires. And they, because of the type of vehicle, they're not inexpensive. And so they were very, very kind and said, well, you know, we've got some rebates going on, and so send this in, and we've got some on sale. And so that was really before I got the rebate. But anyway, they said, you know, these are on sale. And so I got the 4 tires. And they said, now, do you want to buy road hazard? And I said, you know, I really don't believe so because I've never had a problem. Well, 2 weeks later, I had a nail kind of on the side and took it in because the tire pressure kept going down. And they said, well, this can't be fixed. And because you can't put a patch on this side. Right. And I said, okay, what are we going to do? Did you take road hazard? And I said, no, I didn't, but I will in the future. So what he did was he said, I said, now what are you going to give me for this bad tire? So he thought, and he says, well, I tell you what I will do. You buy the road hazard. Here is a $50 rebate that you can send in, and I will give you your tire. And I said,
no cash changed hands?
No. I paid for the road hazard. Right. They gave me the tire. Then they also gave me the $50 rebate to send in. I will always go back to that tire place. It's a great, great story.
And of course you belong now, right? You belong. Good. Thank you.
Great.
Awesome. Give me another one. Somebody's got a wow back. And this side of the room, please remember, last in the lunch line if we don't participate. I'm calling it. These folks are going to eat. These folks are going to eat.
Yvonne Keebler, pastor
Hi, Yvonne.
from Fort Worth, King of Glory. Again, another car story. 3 weeks ago, I was headed for, or just before Easter, headed for church and decided to stop off at the public library on the way, and the car died, and I never got to church that night, let's put it that way. Towed in, fixed, gave back, died the next day at a gas pump, towed in, fixed.
Yvonne, this does have a happy ending.
Oh,
doesn't
it
Right now
has
you're kind
a
of-
marvelous
'cause
ending.
you're bringing the room down, and I was.
No, listen, this was a wow. I've never had this happen to me.
Okay.
So anyway, gets the car back to me Sunday morning. I go out and turn it on, and nothing. And I'm going, no. So my husband trucks me in his old truck, and we get there. But, so called the wrecker, called the car place, went in, and when I went to pick the thing up, it is fixed. But they totally charged me nothing for the repair, for the labor, and they picked up the towing. It was zip. And what a blessing. I fully expected maybe they'd give me a little help, but I didn't figure they'd pick the whole shebang up. And yes, I will return to them.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you, Vaughn. Jane's walking over here because she knows someone is. It's good.
All right, this is a tire story, and it's just a
What
little.
is the deal with you guys in cars?
It's a little one. I had a car sales thing. I had a dozen of these, but they're always around cars. So anyway, I got this dealership and that I go to for my tires up in Denton for my motorhome because it's a special tire. And I go in there, and these guys are just the friendliest guys all the time. So anyway, my valve stem, you got to take all the stuff off just to air the tire up because it didn't have valve extenders. So it's a process, and I needed to air up the tires, and I was going on a trip. So I whipped in, talked to them. They said, fine, we'll take care of it. Did them probably 20 minutes because they got to really bring out the power jacks and everything, do all that, make it happen just to air up the tire. And so afterward, I tell him, how much do I owe you? He said, oh, and that's on us. And then he looked at me and says, well, you could buy the guy a Coke if you'd like to.
I love that.
And so I said, by God, I'll buy him a Coke. So I went and got a Coke and gave it to the guy that did it, and we were done and on my way. That's the
great
kind of service that I get all the time there. So Briscoe Tire in Denton if you want to get some tires done.
Yes. For those that are watching at home or in their office, yes, Briscoe Tires. All right.
Well, I got a free windshield wiper from City Garage in Grapevine, and I feel really bad now because I bought a new car, like first brand new car, and so now I get everything done at the dealership for free. But I make sure my husband goes to City Garage. He takes his car. I made him, and I make sure he takes his car. And another thing is they've always, even before they gave me a free windshield wiper, I don't know anything about cars. I barely know where the gas goes, and when I go in for an oil change, I would just pick whatever place, and I'd always feel that they're kind of harassing me, and probably because, oh, young, cute little girl, what does she know about cars? Let's charge her for everything else. And I've never felt that at that place. They would tell me, okay, the air filter will be needing to be changed, but it was never aggressive. It was never pressuring. It was never, and so that, it's those little things. And then I got the free windshield wiper. Then, yes, I have a 3-year-old that I have to take with me to places often, and so we were actually at the Ginger Man in Fort Worth. It's a bar, but not like a bar. I was there in the afternoon.
We're not going to judge you.
Yeah, I know. So I was there with my little guy, and sometimes there's milk required for some drinks, so I was hoping they would have milk because it wasn't a restaurant. It is just, it's a bar that has a little bit of food. And so I asked the waitress, do y'all have milk? Can you make chocolate milk? And she goes, no, we don't have any. Then she came back a little bit later with a bag from the 7-Eleven next door. She got a big thing of chocolate milk. She got a box of animal crackers and a box of goldfish for my little guy.
Wow.
And she didn't charge me for any of it. I'll try to pay her back. She's like, no, don't worry about it. I'm like, are you serious? I know you make $2.13 an hour. How, why are you buying stuff for me? Wow. So I left a really big tip. Good. And if I were able to go out and enjoy, nights out with bars and things, I would be going back. I will go back to the Ginger Man once I have an older child who allows babysitters and such.
Isn't that an amazing story? And can everybody, by the way, kudos to the Mission Synod automobile dealers and service centers here. I feel as if they've also attended some kind of a Briarwood retreat on the area of customer service. That's great stuff, because we all have it happen, and we all know how we feel when it happens, because we had a certain expectation and somebody went above and beyond. We're almost at a break, so here's what I want to do. Thank you, Jane. I want to define terms before we take the break, so here we go for your notes. The first thing I want to do is make sure you understand who your customers are. And by the way, I will refer to them sometimes as customers, stakeholders. You might call them church members, worshipers, parishioners. It doesn't matter. Remember what I said at the beginning. Meet me at the intersection of secular and non-secular, and just take the journey with me today. But this is a little bit, I'm going to start pushing you to really think through this, to really start, especially after lunch, what can I take back home with me and back to our church the next time council convenes and we are going to talk about this. Might I ask some of our hospitality people to watch this again? What is it we could do in the area of church staff development? You don't have one set of customers. You probably have two for sure. And here's what I want to push you on as lay leaders. You probably have three. I believe you have people that are attending worship or attending events. I also want to suggest that you probably have visitors, right? So, and you're going to have the Christmas Easters, right? The C&Es. So this isn't hard. That's not the stretch. But the stretch is this. Who is taking care of the pastor and staff? The third customer. So as we go on from this moment forward, lay leaders especially, if I have church council members in this room, who's coming alongside the pastor? That's one of the hardest lessons that we had to learn at Nazareth, is to minister to the minister, to provide quality customer service to those who are serving us every single day. So you probably have three. This is my best understanding of what customer service is, and I actually don't want you to write this down. Would you please just look at it? If you did write something down on this, it would be the middle. I put it in color for you. Here's what I'm going to say. Every organization can do at least this much. Every organization can do at least this much. So what I'm sharing with you is that every church is probably doing this. Might have a greeter, might have a coffee hour. But the thing about customer service that I want you to understand, secular and non-secular, is that we define it as something that happens before, during, and after. Let me have this, please. Before, during, and after the point of purchase. What you need to have in your notes is, what are we doing as a church before? During, I kind of get, but after. If point of purchase is Sunday, what is my church doing in the area of service to others before, during, and after Sunday? I would also tell you this, it applies to how we're handling our phones, how we handle the answering service or answering machine to that phone. It applies to how we are dealing with things online. Wayne brought up an amazing epiphany about how this next generation, if we can attract them, get back to you right away means get back to me right now. So what am I doing online? Do I even have something online? And if I don't have something that's current and regular online, could I be working in a consortium of sorts with other people from this synod so that we could collaborate and work together better? Service is before, during, and after the point of purchase. That's all I really want you to know as you assess where you're at your church. this I want you to get. Quality customer service is excellence in exceeded expectations. It is your capacity as human beings at this retreat center to all have a wow story. This is the thing, this is where you throw the curtains back and you see what's going on behind. Every table had a wow. 3 or 4 of you were willing to share it. Can you help me understand why some churches don't understand? Why could you tell me a wow experience at a tire center or an automobile dealer or a bar? We're not judging. I love it. Actually, I love it. Comfort food, it's all good stuff. Yeah. Can you tell me why we have those wow? What have those people figured out? That somehow in our churches, in our dogma, in our piety, in our religiosity, we don't get. It has to do with excellence, and it has to do with this word, capital letters, please, the experience. What is it they experience when they come? What's the experience at the front door? What is the experience at coffee? To quote Howard Schultz, it's not about the coffee. It's about the experience. Sticking coffee hour before or after worship ain't cutting it. It's actually just a low-level expectation now. People come and say, no, they don't have coffee. Excellence in the experience. Excellence in the experience. Now, I put in red something that's really tough for some churches. Here it is. Do we know what our communities expect? Now, Bill, you had me at hello. Exceeded expectations. I get that. But you know what? Your church went through some really dramatic change. You had to have the metanoia people come in and actually do crisis intervention. Yeah, we did. Unashamed. I showed you the other side of that darkness too. But part of that was, what does it mean to belong to Nazareth? What is it that you expect? And then, how can we exceed it? That's the toughest part. I may be at a church, I'm just metaphorically now, I may be at a church that has a 10, 15, 20, 30, 40-year understanding of expectations. This is the way we've always done it here. We've always done it this way. And then that's where the bar is set on expectations. You might want to ask people. You might want to ask people that don't worship there. What do you expect in a church? Well, they'll say, I don't want to be judged. Do you accept? Are you open, affirming? Do you whatever? You'll have to plow through that. We did. You'll have to plow through it. And by the way, a very large Iowa church at Nazareth that has stayed in the ELCA. So you have to plow through it. But what do people expect? Then you got to figure out how to exceed that expectation. Now I'm going to mess with you a little bit. I take QCS and I change it to quality church service. I just think that's kind of cool. I did that for you today. Excellence in our ability to exceed expectations of the current experience. What is that experience? How do we raise the bar? How do we get at it? And after lunch, we'll talk more specifically about what those 4-star and 5-star service providers do at the intersection of secular and non-secular. That's the hardest part. I do want to say one thing. And Christopher already told me we have people online on retreat with us today. And again, I welcome those folks and ask them to hang in there and come back after lunch too. And we're going to take a short break here. I need you to understand that the people of your church, your churches, really don't care that we're meeting today. Because what we're talking about, this QCS stuff, is really, Christopher will get this easily. It's just computer code. Okay? It's a binary code of zeros and ones. I wouldn't get all hung up on it. The metaphor that I like to tell people is, it's this. They'll know when they experience it. To them, it's just a light switch. Let me say that again. Most people don't care that you and I are meeting and talking about this today. They just want it to go on when they hit the switch. so, I mean, what is happening when they pull into your parking lot? What is happening when they call? What is happening when they meet our parishioners? And I'm not talking about Sunday at the church. I'm talking about downtown. Are we the name and face and place that we claim every Sunday, everywhere we go? Are you, here's a word for you, are you brand ambassadors of your church? Are you, remember what I said, secular and non-secular, you got to meet me halfway. Are you the brand ambassadors of your church? Did you listen to how many automotive stories were in this room? Car-related stories? What's the reputation of car dealers traditionally? You don't even want to drive in the lot, right? Hard sell. What's it going to take to put you in this car today? I'm going to go talk to my manager, see if we can work something out. Then we're going to get you to belong. We're going to get you to belong. Well, those days of hard sell are over. Because I can shop for a car online, folks. And if you want me to go back a few slides, I'll show you where other people, both in the faith and outside the faith, are going to belong to. And it may not be in our church. So it really doesn't matter. It's God bless that we are talking about this today. But in the end, those stakeholders, they just want to hit the light switch and have it go on. They'd love to have a story to tell. The flavor of the ice cream, the program of the month, the table talk of the 3 or 4 that we do each year, doesn't matter. What are we going to do when we throw that light switch on? So here's my question as we head into break. We'll take a short stretch, use the bathroom, we'll come back and process a little bit, then we'll take our lunch. All these things that we've shared so far this morning, all the little nuances, can you sit, and I actually think about this as a mirror. Now I'm going to hold the mirror up to our church. Knowing what I know now, I wonder how we're doing. And I wonder if there's some things we can do better. I think there is. And I'm kind of curious now to learn from those 4-star, 5-star places that Bill has been able to be with. Let's stretch. Let's finish up on any refreshments that you want. And here's what I'm going to do. Jane and Christopher, I'm showing about 11:20 or so, right? Can we take 10? Is that all right? Let's take 10 minutes back in our seats at 11:30 for one more session before we take our lunch. Thank you, everybody. One more minute. One more minute. All right, all right, all right. All right, this last 30 minutes or so before lunch, I actually want to start unpacking what that 4-star, 5-star stuff is all about. A lot of times when I'm visiting with companies, I will make reference to another acronym that you can write down. I'm not going to cover it today with you, but if your church was really to decide to get into this a little bit more and get back to mission, vision, values, what we stand for, what expectations there are around us, write these letters down. UVP. UVP. In the secular world, if I'm working with a company that says, well, let's work on your UVP, what it stands for is unique value proposition. Unique value proposition. I will tell organizations you're trying to basically figure out what makes us unique. And it's a very refined, you can Google it or wiki it, it doesn't matter to me, but when an organization really tries to drill down and get at their UVP, their unique value proposition, it's a really refined understanding of who we are, what we stand for, and what people can expect for us. And it's basically this. If you're getting at your UVP, you're helping people better understand why they should belong. What makes us unique? Because in my world, in the 21st century of marketing and public relations and customer service, there's a difference between being value added, because everybody does that, right? Everybody says, well, there's great value in adding us to your life. I'm actually pushing you a little bit. This is a little deeper. I want to know what makes your church unique. What is our unique value proposition? What do we offer what's our niche? If we believe that I can't be everything to everybody, what makes us unique? UVP. It's a topic for another day, but something you all can certainly pound around when you have your meetings. Okay. I want to talk about some of the 4-star, 5-star service providers in a number of sectors. If we go back one, I've been in residence or behind the scenes with all of these. I'm not going to spend any time on, because Proctor Gamble has so many brands, it's hard to get your arms around anyway. A little bit of Disney, not much. In alignment with the church, I actually would like to cut just a line right here. I want to spend a little time with Four Seasons, Starbucks, and Ritz Carlton. I'll actually add one. I have not been in residence with them, but I study them, and that's Apple Computers. So we'll take a look at that. The first one is Ritz Carlton, and I was in residence with the Ritz Carlton folks down in Atlanta, Georgia. And, amazing. I cannot afford to stay in these places. So it comes in handy when they say, let me get my glasses down. It comes in handy when they do this. I am an academic researcher. May I come and study your organization? And then they're not, they're like, well, why don't you come and hang out with us? And Ritz Carlton is wonderful because they love their culture. By the way, they have their motto on everyone's name tag. And the motto is simply this. Listen for it. We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. It is the motto by which they serve others. Really weird thing happened to me at this Ritz Carlton. I took the train. I flew in and then I took the train, which goes right to a little subway station underneath Peachtree Street. And I got out and I'm carrying my bag, and I kid you not, I met, before I get in the revolving door, I met at the parking lot. My first experience at a Ritz Carlton was this. Well, good afternoon, Dr. Withers, and welcome to the Ritz Carlton. Now, first of all, that freaked me out because I didn't get in the door. And one of the things that the Ritz Carlton companies have developed is a interactive earpiece with wireless microphone and training so that they watch for luggage tags. Right? So they saw my luggage tag. In fact, if we went to my cottage this morning, you'll see that my bag has my business card laminated. It's a business tag. Hello, Dr. Withers. Welcome to the Ritz Carlton. Now, what I didn't know is that he also had a lapel mic. So he does this. Dr. Withers is going to be coming to the front desk. First-time visitor. Thank you. So I go up to the front desk. Dr. Withers, welcome to the Ritz Carlton. We love having you here. How can we be of service? Freaked me out again because I didn't know until I spent a couple of days there that they have this little radio intercom system. I'm not suggesting that your church invest in that creepy technology. Because can you imagine folks' experience? It was just a sign from God. They just knew who I was. I share it with you as an example of what some organizations will do at hello and goodbye. The power of VIP. I can't afford to stay at a Ritz Carlton, but if I were to go back today, by the way, I would be in their database. They would actually know the pillow I used, the preferred pillow, and what I had for dinner, and they would try to make that a personalized experience for me. This is the Four Seasons. The reason I profiled them is because, well, I'll tell you why. I mean, to be honest with you, these two hotels compete for both the Malcolm Baldrige and J.D. Power and Associates Awards for customer service every year. They love knocking each other around in the area of 4-star and 5-star service. But one of the things that I loved about this hotel is that it was going to be a new Four Seasons. And one of the owners, one of the co-owners of that hotel was a friend of a friend. It's actually a guy I know. And it's out on Puget Sound, and their rooftop pool is designed so that when you're in the pool, you look like you're in the ocean. It's just all the designers and the architects did remarkable stuff. And they figured out alternative revenue sources. They've got some boutiques here, and then they've got long-term living above. The thing that kind of got me in this hotel is I went into the bathroom. All the electronics come in by sensor. Everything turns on. So you don't have to do anything. You just walk in. And as I'm sitting there, I'm going to shave in this bathroom in the morning. This is a embedded mirror television screen. So I'm looking at myself, and all of a sudden ESPN comes on right below my chin. And so now to me, I'm a baseball nut. I love baseball. And of course, you're getting scores. And all of a sudden I'm looking at me trying to shave, and then looking down and watching sports. And then I look further down, and I'm dripping blood in the sink because the razor has gone. So sometimes technology and things can go too far. Bottom line is that these places will battle each other out to be recognized for service. Now we're locked up here. Hang on. There we go. These are the awards they covet, and they're fine relinquishing each year to each other, but in that sector they're really about it. Now, you will look at this photograph and you'll think that that is photoshopped. And I'm telling you, I took this picture, and it is not photoshopped. That is an actual picture of an actual parish in northern Minnesota where the pastor has the parking spot closest to the front door. And the next slot, had I been able to wide shot it, is the handicapped accessible parking spots. Something's wrong. Something is wrong. I took that last summer, by the way. This is Howard Schultz and myself, and that is actually the internship coordinator for our college. They flew her out, and they said, if this goes well, Bill, we would love to have a student or two come out and be in Seattle with us at corporate and be a part of they can learn the experience. If you're teaching it, then maybe they can learn it firsthand, and we'd love to give them an internship, which they do. And he really is the author of The Third Place. I wanted to know a little bit more about what they did, and so he's wonderfully gracious. And by the way, that's a rare sighting of me in a sport coat. I was overdressed for Starbucks corporate. They're very business casual, very real, be comfortable, this is what we want, and it's kind of a cool experience. But I asked Howard, I said, what is it that makes you distinctive? There's caribou coffee, there's all these other options. And at the end of the day, the bottom line is you're selling your coffee, even the tall or the grandes, for $3, $4, $5. And he said, Bill, it's not about the coffee. It's about these 4 things. When people come into our third place, they have a home, they have work, most of them. I want them to know that they can trust us. I want visitors to our stores to hear and feel a sense of passion and urgency. On number 2, would you guys put in parentheses, please, EQ again? They look for and train for high emotional intelligence. He goes, people should come to our stores and expect to feel passion. When they order, we will do our best to exceed the need. And the bottom line is we'd like them to come back to our store because we're often placed in places where they work or where they commute. So we are often a drive-through, if not a drive-by. If we have enough repetitions, we'll get to know their name. Now, people, would you please take a look at these 4 tenets of a coffee franchise? And can you tell me where our churches may have fallen through the cracks here? How is it that a Starbucks can become the third place? And what can we learn from the Ritz Carltons, the Four Seasons, and the Starbucks of this world? Now I've got to hold a mirror up to my face in my church and say, is there a high level of trust? Do we have people with high EQ showing passion and making people feel like they're VIP? Do we even know what people need, let alone exceeding it? And then how are we building, what did I say this era was? 20 more years of sustainable relationships. What are we doing as a church? This stuff was just, when I came back from all this research, and then I started reading the book like Christianity After Religion, you start to go, might you be an ambassador of just sharing the 4-star, 5-star stories and helping churches better understand it? I just love it. By the way, does anybody order a Trenta? By the way, this is a coffee cup the size of a gulp. You know, the gulps that were outlawed in New York, right? The ones you can't buy them because they're just so unhealthy. That's a Trenta. I think we're looking at 32 ounces. What are you doing with that much coffee, people? Other than visiting the bathroom with the shakes. Briefly on Apple, I'm going to go back and forth because I want you to get this. Apple has, by the way, Apple really doesn't care about what they sell or don't sell in a store. But this is how they train their service people, because they know you're probably going to buy it online. In their world of service and training in their Apple stores, the APPLE stands for approach, probe, present, listen, and end. Now, what did I say about hellos and goodbyes? I want you to look at that carefully, and then we'll juxtapose it to Starbucks. So the Apple computer empire, as a retail store, knowing full well that you may or may not buy something because you can get it online or elsewhere, we're going to make your visit first time to the store very personal. We're going to try to figure out what it is you need. You can go to the Genius Bar in the stores where no one is dressed formally. They wear t-shirts, khakis, and a name tag. We're going to try to present a solution or resolve issues that you might have. You simply go and say, I can or can't get my computer to do this. I do or do not want this. They're trained to resolve that. And then look at this. They're trained on the goodbye. And every goodbye is usually accompanied with an invitation back. You're kidding me. So these 4-star, 5-star organizations actually train for this stuff. Now look at these 4, 5. We go back 1. Trust, passion, exceeding, and relationship. Personalized welcome, need, solution, resolve, hellos and goodbyes. There's a lot we can learn from this. In the hotel chains, one of the things that was the epiphany for me was this. And let me use your church, my church, as an example. Across all of those 4-star, 5-star service providers, at the end of the day, they would always say this: we're going to be judged by what we do, not what we say we do. What does that mean? That means I really don't care what your mission, vision, values say on the wall at your church. I don't even care if you want to wear the Great Commission and the Great Commandment on your sleeve. If you're not the embodiment, if you're not living that out, it's just wrong. Wrong, if not a lie. This is what I've learned from 4-star, 5-star service providers. Where is your church at? Hard stuff, hard stuff. Now, a couple of things, and then I'm going to show you some numbers. You don't need to write the numbers down, but I want you to get a sense for what's happening, and then we'll be coming up on lunch here in a little bit. I have not been behind the scenes at United Airlines, or as it's referred to now, United Continental. But I know that one of the things that United Continental is doing is toying with the idea of messing around. Do you guys remember 20 years ago, one of the best marketing strategies ever was, what's the motto? Fly the friendly skies of United, right? Can you tell me 20 years ago what those TV ads were like? Like, yeah, what? Music was. And then you just sat there, I promised myself I wasn't going to cry at that commercial. They were amazing. Powerful hello, goodbye moments for United Airlines. 20 years. By the way, United Continental is thinking about bringing back Fly the Friendly Skies. Their greatest concern is here. And something I'm calling brand gap. They're saying, this is what we wish to say, but we will be judged by what we do, and they're not sure they can do this well. So every organization can deal with this kind of stuff, and United Continental is doing that right now. For us to say fly the friendly skies in this wane era of social media and Yelp and Twitter and TravelAdvisor, everybody had better be on board or they won't have a friendly sky experience. They're just not ready yet. All right, here are some numbers. I'm going to go through these fast. Again, these are the data points I will share with you electronically later, but I want you to get raw numbers. The question you should have now is, Bill, I get it. I get what's happening out there contextually. I get that you've had this experience and you're bringing that to some of us now. I'm at the intersection of secular and non-secular. Can you tell me a little bit about just the human condition? What is happening in our world that's made it so volatile right now? Aside from the issues in the church, Bill, what are consumers experiencing out there? Let's go through it quickly. Number one, if someone has a bad experience, about 90% of them will have that emotional moment where they say, if I had another choice, I probably would take it. Let me say that again. This is not church. This is relationship era, big picture, general speaking. In other words, if I have a bad experience, 90% of them will have that human emotion today. If I had another choice, I would take it. So, let me just accept the number. And have we ever had a bad experience at our church? Parking lot, front door, phone, web. Remember what before, during, and after. Think about it. Now, I want to be also clear about this. They don't always choose the other option. I said they emote. They feel as if they had another option, they'd take it. Almost 80% will talk about it. Word of mouth is still the most powerful medium. If someone has a bad experience, almost 90% will emotionally, mentally shop elsewhere. Almost 80% will talk about it. This is the antithesis of that wow experience. They'll say wow, but you're not going to believe what happened on Sunday. Whoop! These are amazing numbers. The last thing is this. Wayne, take a good look. We're fast approaching about a third willing to go online and post something on social media about that bad experience. What I'm telling you is this. Today's consumer of whatever it is that you're selling is so impulsive and so impetuous and so connected, belonging to other things, that at the moment it doesn't go well, look, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe what happened to me. I'll give you an example here in just a second. So why does the experience matter so much? This is the Harris data on why. It's very emotional for them. It's about belonging. I'm certainly going to tell people when it doesn't go well. I bet everybody in this room has got an experience at a restaurant around a bad meal. And you just, what'd you do last night? Oh, my wife and I went out. How was it? Where'd you guys go? And then, it was the worst. Some other numbers real quick. 70% of consumers are going to make a decision on how they feel. In the marketplace, almost half, more than half, are willing to pay more if they feel like they're getting more. So they won't always, here's what I'm saying. The cheapest and most convenient is not always the option. If I perceive that I'm getting more, I'm probably willing to drive the extra mile. Again, apply this to you. Apply this to you. Bill's just sharing open, raw data, but this best describes what's going on out there. Then I can hold the mirror up and describe what's going on in my church. 70% will choose on how they feel. Whoa. Almost 70% had an upsetting experience last year to the point where they raised their voice. There's a little more frequency on that in my household, but that's just Linda and I after 30 years of marriage. That's how we roll. Look at the bottom number. Most people didn't want their money back, and they didn't want money in return. They just needed to get it off their chest. Wow, things have changed. When you have a bad experience, just so you know, it takes about a 12-to-1 contact to turn that around. Meaning, we had a bad episode, I would need to interact with that parishioner 12 times positively to get that turned back around to where it's positive. This is the human condition today. So if you lose somebody and you do nothing to try to get that back, you're probably going to lose them. A 12-to-1 contact ratio to reverse a negative experience. And if you want to know what the social media, online, connected environment looks like, these two are huge. I'm going to show this to you in a second. On average, just Joe Blow and Jane Doe are connected to about 280 other people. I want to be really clear about this. I'm not telling you how many friends they have. I'm just telling you that in their electronic and personal exchanges, on average, each of us in this room has about 280 other connections online in our networks. But when they post, something happens. It's usually an echo effect, and some other people will start to see it, whether they're friends or not. Word of mouth is a little different ratio. One unhappy customer tells 10, and then they will repeat that story 5 more times. Holy cow. What Bill is saying is that we really need to be at the top of our church game. I mean, we can sit and say, well, we've worshiped 40, 50 people, Bill steady, for the last 20 years. This is the church we were born in. This is the church we'll die with. It's just fine. We have a couple of estate guests. We're managing financially. We'll get there. But if you want to grow and you want to be in a relationship era understanding the volatility of that relationship era is super important, especially when you're dealing with young people, so few of them claiming Christianity. Okay, somebody should be out there going, Bill, I dare you, show me. This is, and I could only grab this much of it for you. This is a screenshot from my computer. So, in fact, I even posted right over here. You can see me. But this is a colleague of mine at the college, and I have permission to share it with you. This took place at a convenience store, and I don't think we have Quick Stars or Quick Trips down here. Same as a Come and Go or whatever is the C-store experience down here. The bottom line is this. This was his wow experience. Travis had a group of students that he was working with at 7:45 in the morning. You can imagine college students getting up for a lab at 7:45 in the morning. And so for the last 2 years, every Tuesday and Thursday, Travis would swing by this convenience store and get a dozen donuts. Now, every convenience store that you've ever been in that has baked goods, what do I see at that display? What's in that kiosk? Donuts. What else is below the kiosk? There's bags, there's boxes, there's the plastic tweezers, and hopefully for all of you, there's that glove that you wear if you're going to grab it, or wax paper, right? Standard convenience store, C-store experience. Every Tuesday, Thursday for 2 years, Travis would swing by this convenience store and pick up a box of a dozen donuts for those students who were getting up early in the morning to come in for their lab. Until 2 weeks ago, he went in and did what he has done for 2 years. He knows the staff. One of the regular staffers does this. What's it behind it? You think if you're going to drain us out of donuts, you might want to give us a call next time. And then, full-time staffer, probably just having a bad day. We have absolutely no idea, understanding what happened at home. We don't know if she had a sick kid. We don't know if there's a situation. I'm super empathetic. In the church, we should be, right? Should be Jesus with skin on. Travis was so taken back by it, he did not have a scene in the store, although he would have had every right to have a scene. He chose not to do that. Instead, he went back to the office and posted this. And you can't see it from where you're seated, but he tagged the corporate office here, and then he tagged the other competitor's corporate office here as he shared his story of discontent. Then, as you can see, and this is only 2 screens worth, it went on all day. If I could, it would keep going and going and going. Wayne, this is today's consumer. This is what's happening. And by the way, the Quick Start, Quick Trip people were not paying attention. Their corporate office is in Wisconsin. And that thread went on all day. I think you can still, 12 hours, 11 hours, 11, went on all day. Finally, he got a phone call at the office. I was there upstairs in my office when he got it. And they said, is there any way you'd take that down? Would you take that off your Facebook? You have a lot of friends. And he said, well, let's talk about it. I mean, this was, and God bless him. This is what Travis said to their corporate office. He said, I will do this on one condition. He's a good guy. He goes, please, I don't want that lady to lose her job. I mean, this is her job in a convenience store. Please have nothing punitive. If anything, just have it be remedial. That shouldn't happen. I've been your customer for 2 years, every Tuesday and Thursday morning. Please don't let her lose her job. If you do that, I'll take it down. And they said, absolutely, lesson learned. We've got some training to do in our stores. We'll take care of it. take a look at your watches. Straight up noon. I'll turn it over to Jane, and then we'll be visiting in a little bit. We're going to actually get you talking a little bit more at your tables. Lunch, I think, with whoever you wish. But when we reconvene, let's mix it up a little bit. Jane?
We're going to break for lunch, and we'll move over to Shalom Center. Don't forget to bring your ticket over there, and Jean will be collecting those over at Shalom. We'll regather in here and be ready to start at 1 o'clock today. And so I'd like to invite Bishop to come forward and offer us a blessing for our meal.
Thanks for being here today, Bill. Thanks for your words. This is very intriguing, and a lot of it is common sense. But for us to walk through it with you like this, and to redirect our thinking back to our parishes and how we're doing, is very important. So I appreciate it. It's fun and painful at the same time. The Lord be with you. In your graciousness, O Lord our God, you provide all good things, and in this season we especially give thanks that you have provided us the resurrection celebration of our Lord Jesus Christ. We thank you that as the church we are privileged to proclaim that good news in all places, here and around the world, and that we walk together in this with brothers and sisters in this room and in our congregations. We pray that you would enliven and inspire our hearts to be more attentive to those who come among us, and to welcome them and to be receptive to them, to go out into the community and to touch them with the love of Jesus Christ. Help us to build relationships that matter. Now, O God, keep us in your care as we join together for the food that we share. We thank you for this, another gift of your love for us. We pray that thus strengthened we would be prepared to go forth to serve you. We pray this in Jesus' holy name. Amen. By the way, over your lunch break, if you haven't done it yet, walk across the field from the pavilion and into the woods there a little bit. There's just a little drive. They're digging out the new lake that we're putting in at Briarwood, and I just saw it for the first time about a week ago, and it's astounding to see what we're going to have in there. It's a drainage pond to take water away from the Shalom Center, which we've desperately needed. If it ever rains, you know, it always floods right there. So, but this pond is much, much, much bigger than what we've had before, and Phil says he's going to stock it with fish and all sorts of stuff like that to aerate it. And so it's really cool to get an image of what that's going to look like. Enjoy your lunch back here at 1 o'clock, is that right? Okay, very good. See you then.